And welcome to Daf Yomi Megillah, Daf Chav number 27. We have an amazing share for you tonight. Amazing. Can't get more amazing because it's a Gemara. Wherein we believe by God Himself. All right. We're going to start from the third line here. Chav Zayin and Aleph. Darish Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara expands. My Dichsiv, Yisrael is Beis Hashem. Ves Beis HaMelech, Ves Kol Bate Yerushalayim, Ves Kol Beis Godol Saraf Beish. I guess this is talking about one of the destructions of the Beis Hamikdash. What are these things referring to? So the Gemara says Beis Hashem, there's the Beis Hamikdash, so the reference to the Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamelech destroyed the house of the king. Elu Palter and Shamelech, whoever was king, his palace. Ves Kol Bate Yerushalayim, all the houses of Yerushalayim. Kimashman, literally the houses of the people of Yerushalayim. Ves Kol Beis Gadol Saraf Beish. The great houses they burn with fire. What is that? Bayis Gadol is a place where they make Torah great. Base Medrash. The other one says that Bayis Gadol is a place where they made Tefillah great, where they daven, the shul. Madamar Torah. The one says Torah. Dichsiv Hashem Chafetz Man Tzidko. Yagdil Torah b'yad. You see the word Yagdil Gadol by Torah. Madamar Tefillah. Dichsiv Safrana Hagdolos Asher Asa Elisha. Count the great things Elisha did. Elisha was the Talmud of Eliyahu and Avi, the Avad Rachamehu the Avad. All his great miraculous acts he did through Tefillah. This time Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who the Amar Makash Torah. Let's say we can assume that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi is the one who says that Bayis Gadol is a base medrash. The Amar Yeshua ben Levi, base Aknes is mutter lasosa base medrash mamina. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi we quoted yesterday says that you can make a shul into a base medrash. Therefore, the koach of Torah is above the koach of tefillah, and therefore Bayis Gadol is a reference to the higher thing, which is the Torah. What about, we said you're not supposed to sell a Sefer Torah really for anything. What about to buy another Sefer Torah? Take an old one and buy a new one. Came with the Lomali, since there's no Mal in Kedusha, it's Asr. Dilma came with the Lake Aliluya Achrina. Can't get any higher than the Sefer Torah. So maybe you should let it do it. Shapri Dam, maybe it's okay. Tashma. It says in the Mishnah that if you sold the Torah, you can't buy with it Svarim. Svarim hu de lo. You can't buy other Svarim. Ha Torah b'Torah Shapri Dam. To exchange it for another Sefer Torah, to use the money for another Sefer Torah, that's okay. The Gemara says, "Masis in dievek ki kami boilan chadchila." The Mishnah, you're right. The Gemara succumbs. The Gemara says, admits that you're right. B'dieved, if you sold a Sefer Torah, you could use the proceeds to buy a new one. That for sure you could do with dieved. But we're talking about shaila is l'chadchila. You ought to do it l'chadchila. We still have an answer to that. Tashma golden Sefer Torah met pachos chumshin. You could wrap a Sefer Torah in the wrappings of a chumash. Chumshin are, I guess, single chumshin is chamisha chumshin Torah, so one of the chumashim is one of the let's say bereshis written on a scroll by itself. Chumshim matpachos neviim v'ksuvim. You could cover chumashim with the wrappings of neviim and ksuvim. All neviim and ksuvim pachos chumshim. The chumshim have higher kedusha. You can't wrap them with the wrappings of neviim and ksuvim. Lo chumshim matpachos Sefer Torah. And you can't use the wrappings of Sefer Torah to wrap chumshim, which is degrading to them. Kasani miyas golden Sefer Torah matpachos chumshim. So if we see from the Reisha, it says that you could wrap Sefer Torah in the wrappings of a chumash. Matpachos chumshinim, matpachos Sefer Torah lo. You can wrap it. There's no problem of wrapping Sefer Torah with wrappings on other Sefer Torah. So you see that one Sefer Torah could be exchanged for another Sefer Torah. There was name a Sefer. So, but from the Sefer, it really is proof the other way. Sefer Torah. I'm sorry. Let's go back for a second. Sefer Torah. Golem Sefer Torah. You can wrap a Sefer Torah with the wrappings of a chumash. Sefer Torah, you can only wrap them with the wrappings of a chumash, which has lesser kedusha. Which you're elevating the kedusha, but wrappings of another Sefer Torah you can't use to wrap a Sefer Torah. So you see that you can't exchange one Sefer Torah for another. So the Gemara's name was safe. I would say the safe. Allah chumshim and bakal Sefer Torah. but you can't wrap a chumash with the wrappings of a Torah. HaTorah b'shara shabradan, but it would indicate from the Seifa of the Brisa that a Sefer Torah could be wrapped with the other wrappings of the Sefer Torah. So you see, you could exchange one Sefer Torah for another. Elam halek elam mashma. Because there's a stira, it's not clear. The Reish and Seifa seem to imply different things. Therefore, you can't bring a proof in this Brisa. Tashma. Manichin Sefer Torah gabi Torah, but Torah gabi Chumshan, Chumshan gabi Neviim, Ksuvim. You can, if you want to place a Sefer Torah, you can place it on top of Torah, another Torah, and Torah you can place gabi Chumshan, Chumshan gabi Neviim, Ksuvim. Aval Neviim Ksuvim Chumshan. You can't place Navi and Ksuvim on a Chumash. Lam Chumshan gabi Torah. The Chumshan you can't place on a Torah. But you see from the beginning of this Brisa so that you could place a Sefer Torah on another Sefer Torah. The Gemara says, you see, they have the same Kedusha, so you could exchange one for another. The Gemara says, Hanacha Gamris, that's different, placing one on top of another. Shiny Hanacha Delev Shar. We're talking about a case where there's no other place to put the other Sefer Torah, so you have to put it on another Sefer Torah. The Hachi, if you don't say that's the case, Michrach Hechi Karchina. When we write a Sefer Torah, and you wrap the Sefer Torah in sinews and you tie it together. One of the scrolls, one of the pages resting on its friend, or when you roll the Sefer Torah, also when you do Glila, right? Or what is it called when you roll meshing or mishing? I don't know. It's a weird word for it. When you roll the Sefer Torah. Anyway, whatever it's called, when you roll the Sefer Torah, you're resting part of the Sefer Torah, the two side parts, the two circular things, cylinders, are resting on another daf of Sefer Torah. That's the way a Sefer Torah is made. There's no other way to do it. Shari, it must be permissible. Hanami came in lefshar shari. So too here, it's also permissible because we're talking a case where there's no other place to put the Sefer Torah. Tashma damar Rabchanan Yochanan Mishum Mishum Galil Limkar Adam Sefer Torah Yashan. You can't sell an old Sefer Torah to buy a new one. So you see, you can't sell a Sefer Torah to buy a new one. There it's talking about where the new Sefer Torah hasn't been written yet. So you're selling Sefer Torah, you might be lax and decide after you sell the old Sefer Torah that you want to use the money for something else. You have the new Sefer Torah written and you just want to sell the old one to be able to buy the new one. Can you do that? Tashma. If you only sell a Sefer Torah over two things, in order to have money to be able to learn Torah, to learn Kola, or to have money to buy a wedding ring. Isha. Shmamina Torah, the Torah shopper. You see that you could exchange Torah for Torah. To learn Torah, you can sell a Sefer Torah. Gemara says, maybe limud Torah is greater than actually purchasing a Sefer Torah. Because learning the Torah brings you to doing the mitzvahs. Having a Sefer Torah, you're a couple steps away from doing the mitzvahs. You have to actually read the Sefer Torah, then read the Talmud, then read the Shulchan Aruch, read the Mishnah Berurah, then ask your Rav, and then, only then, can you do a halacha. Isha Namilo, so overall, also to marry a woman, it's permissible to sell a Sefer Torah because the world was created to be inhabited, not to be left desolate. Someone told me they had bought this game over here in Israel. It's called Link, I think, or something like that. And one of the questions was, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law played this game, and one of the questions was, well, what are your thoughts about living on a deserted island, where you have to live on a deserted island and you wouldn't know anyone for your whole life? You and your wife would live together on an island. There's no other civilization. What are your thoughts about that? So when I heard it, I said, of course not. I want to be in civilization. But his brother-in-law, actually, is a big tzad. He says, no, he'd rather not know anybody, live by himself or with his wife for his entire existence. Contrary to the Torah, the Torah says, "Lo sol even allowed to sell a Sefer Torah to ensure." It doesn't even say pruvu. Pruvu is a mitzvah. Pruvu is a mitzvah, and the Torah leaves that out. The Gemara leaves out. The reason you sell a Sefer Torah to marry a woman is that you can kind of pruvu. It's not. It's even more important than the mitzvah. More important than the mitzvah of pruvu is also Rosh Hashanah is to be a normal civilized person and to be part of society. And that is the most important thing, more important than mitzvah pruvu. Right here, you can even sell a Sefer Torah to do that. About Torah with Torah law. Torah with Torah, you can't. So the Gemara says, Tanra Rabbanan, Lo Yimkor Adam Sefer Torah, Alf Pishin, Asarach Lo. So the Gemara really concludes the argument over here and tells you they really can't sell a Sefer Torah. Even if you don't need it, you have a lot of Sefer Torahs. You can't sell. The Yashra Ken Amar Shemulil, Filu Ein La Mayochal, even nothing to eat. The Machar Sefer Torah Bito. You had to find money to buy food, and you sold the Sefer Torah that you had to get some money. Obito, or you sold your daughter as a maidservant, Ama Ivriam. Ein Aros and Brachal Olam, even though you had no choice, you don't see any benefit, any profit from that in the future. V'chein Mosro saying, I'm a Rava, Lo Shanu al Shemachru v'Hosiru. We're only talking about Shemachru v'Hosiru. It says also if you have leftover money from saving it, you have to use the money for a higher kedusha. It's only talking about you sold. Let's say you sold an ark, you sold space knesses, v'Hosiru, Agabu Hosiru. They just collected money and they had leftover. Mutter, and that money you can use for anything. Abaye asked the question, Bryce says, what is this Mishnah talking about where you didn't make it tonight? Aval hisnu afilu dususia mutter. If you made it tonight, even for dususia, we'll see what that later means, something which is kol, it's mutter. Hechidan, what's the case? Ilema, what's Bryce talking about? Shemakro v'osiru, that they sold, let's say a beit knesses, a shul v'osiru, they had extra money, ki hisnu my heavy. What does it matter? They made it tonight. It must be talking about where they collected money. They didn't sell anything. Time of the hisnu. The only reason is they made it tonight that they're going to be able to use it for chol. Halo hisnu lo. If they didn't make it tonight, it wouldn't help. Really, we're talking about they actually sold something of kedusha. If they didn't make it tonight, with the 7 people, the 7 board members of the city, the 7 board members did make it tonight in front of everybody. I feel even for the susia you can use the funds for, even if you sold something in a shul. He said to a certain rabbinical student who used to say over Mishnayos, Rav Sheshes was blind, Mishmil Achmar Rav Sheshes, my duchsosia. Did you hear from Rav Sheshes what duchsosia is? Amalei Acham Rav Sheshes, Parsha Damasa, he's town courier, he's a mailman. Amar Abai Hilka Chayser Rabbanan Deshamo Le Milsa. Someone, a rabbinical student hears something. Lo Yada Pirushal. He doesn't know what it means. The Shaili Kami the Shliach Kami Rabban. You should ask someone who is frequents the Rabban around the Talmudic scholars. The Efshalo Shmiel Le Min Gava Rabba. If you're sure heard the explanation from a great man. Amar Yochanan Mishur Meir Bnei Yer Shahachol Yer Acheres. If some people from one town go into another place, Pascal and Staka, and they tax them, this other village, this other city taxes them for coming to their city to give money to the poor of that city. Nostin, they pay their taxes. They're saying, boy, when they come back to their old city, Mevino Sai money, they get a refund, they get the money back, and they gave the staka to where they came from. And they come back and get refunded. But a singular person who went to another city of Pascal of Staka and they taxed him charity tax. Also a year, he doesn't get a refund when he comes back. Rav Huna Gazer Tanisa, Rav Huna made a tainis al Gabi Rav Chana Bar Chanilai v'Kol Mase. Rav Chana Bar Chanilai was from a neighboring town, and all of the people in his city came with him to join in their tainis. I guess Ramalei at Staka, they charged them a charity tax. V'Yov, when they gave charity. Kiboy Lemese. When Rav Chana Bar Chanilai wanted to go back to his own city, Amrulei Nosvalan Marv and Hazel Manifarnas Bani Masan. Give us the money, let us go give the money, dispense the money to our poor people of our city. Amalu Tanina. So Rav Huna said to them, we have a brisa of Medra Amurim V'Shein Sham Chaver Ir. That's all we're talking about, where they got a refund, where there's no Chaver Ir, where there's no someone who's an Askan, big Askan. Avayesham Chaver Ir, if the city where he's going to has an askan, tinasin l'chavir. He is an askan. He knows where the money should go, so therefore you don't get a refund. Kolshkin and didhu alai smichi. that your town and my town are reliant on me. Not only we have Aska, we also have the big rabbi, the city Rav Huna, who makes sure that that the charity needs of not only his city were taken care of, but also neighboring cities. Mishnah, Ein Mochrin Es Shel Rabim Liyachid. You don't sell a big shul to a individual nation where he doesn't even though a single person can use it for his personal shul, it's not a shul of the rabbim. Divrei Meir Amrulo. So the Rabbanan said to him, "You can't aflo miyar gdol l'yarktana." So therefore, you can't sell a big shul to a small you can't sell a shul from a big city to a small city. Let's say a small city is going to move into where the shul is. You're going to sell it and move the shul. I don't know, pick it up literally and move it to Yarktana. And the Rabbanan hold, no, just like it's mutter, if you need a lot of the Yarktana, so too it's mutter to sell it and to give it to a Yachid. Shaper commonly Rabbanan or Meir. When I'm saying good Meir, Meir Meir Gdol, or Metzer Meir's argument, Meir Gdol, Yarktana, Mikara Kdisha, Hashta, Namikdisha. Even if it goes from a big city to a small city, it's still being used by a minion. So therefore it has the same Kedusha. Once you have the Kedusha of 10 people, you have Kedusha. Mirab miyachi leika kedusha. You're losing a kedusha when one person uses a shul by himself. There's no kedusha. Rabbanan ikal mechash ki agav nami ikal mechash. If really worried about lessening the kedusha, so even from a big city to a small city, you should worry about mishum baro amajos melach. We know that it's more kavod to Hashem when it's a bigger minyan. So therefore, the bigger shul, to sell a shul from a big city to a small city would also be a problem. Just like that's not a problem, so too from a rabbin to a yachid also wouldn't be a problem. Mishnah says, "Ein mokrin beis hakneses ela al tnai." You don't sell a shul ela al tnai shem yirtu yachziru direi meir. You don't sell a shul unless you stipulate that if they want to buy the shul back, they could buy it back. Direi meir, that's what meir holds. When you sell it, you can sell it forever. You can't even redeem it. You can't sell it to be used explicitly for four things: for a spa, Laborski, a place where they, sell leather, Latvila, for a mikvah, Labeis Hamayim, and for a laundromat. Either says the way out of this, even if you want to use it for these four uses, you could just say, "Oh, I'm selling it to you for a courtyard," and then you can do whatever you want with it. He has an easy eitzah to get around it. According to a mayor, you have to sell it with the stipulation that they can buy it back. How could the people, when you sell the shul, how could people live in it or use it? Havile ribis. It's ribis because let's say they buy it back. They always have the option of buying it back. So therefore, let's say they sold it for $100,000. So they sell the shul. And then you buy it and use it for a year, and then they buy it back for $100,000. That's the set price. So therefore, not only are they getting, they earn profit, they earn ribbis off of this because they're living in it. They're using the shul for a full year without paying for anything. That's extra money. It's like a loan. They're loaning $100,000, and they're getting ribbis, getting the use of the shul for a whole year. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar. Rabbi Meir holds like Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar, Sadechab Ribbis Mutter. There's a concept by Ribbis, Sadechab Ribbis, where it's not definitely going to end up in Ribbis. If I go and say to somebody, I'm loaning you $100, and if you don't pay me back and when you pay me back, you have to pay me back $103. That's Ribbis. But here, if he bought it back right away, there would be no ribbis. Sell it for $100,000, and the next day before they use it, he buys back $100,000. It's not going to end up in ribbis. It's only there's a potential for ribbis. Potential for ribbis is not considered to be a problem with ribbis, according to Rabbi Yehuda. The Sanya Harishaya Nosh B'Chayro. He was going after $100,000 from his friend. Asalo said they umecher. In order to compensate him, he said, "I'm giving you my field now for the $100,000 that I owe you." If during this time the person who sold the field, he gets to eat the fruits from the field, mutter. According to Tanakama, if during that year when he sold him the field to compensate for the loan of $100,000, the lokeach, the buyer, is eating fruits, it's usher because he's getting ribbis. Even if he does eat pears, mutter because it's not definitely, he might not buy it back, and therefore just leave the field in his hands. and that'll be the compensation for the loan of $100,000. So it's not definitely going to lead to ribbis. Amar Yehuda Ma'ases ben Zunon. There's an incident which proves this. She'asa Sadeu Mecher Al Pi Rav ben Azariah. He did this. He did what happened in what we just talked about. He sold his field in order to compensate for the loan, based on what Rav ben Azariah advised him to do. And Lokeach was eating peros, and you see it was okay. I'm Rulo Mishamra. You can't bring a proof from there. Mochar Ochel Perosaya. You got the facts wrong. It was really the seller who ate the fruits, Lokeach, and not the buyer. My benayu. What's the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama? Sadacha ribis tikven. Mar savar sadacha ribis mutter. Yehuda holds it's mutter. Mar savar sadacha ribis aser. Tanakama holds aser. Rava says not so fast. The chulei alma sadacha ribis aser. Everyone really agrees. Even Rabbi Yehuda agrees sadacha ribis is aser. The hacha ribis hamanasa hachzer tikvenayu. Rabbi Yehuda, when he allowed lokeach the peros, we're talking about, you're right, it really is ribbis. But he made a stipulation that if he eats the fruits, he's going to pay him back for the fruits. So are you allowed to charge ribbis, and then you'll pay the guy back for the ribbis that you took? Marsa ribbis hamanas haser mutter. Yehuda holds this mutter. Marsa are aser, and Tanakama holds aser. Even if you're returning it to charge ribbis in the first place, that's a problem. The Chama Omer Mochras on Memker Olam. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mutter Adam Lahashtin Mayim Besoch Dal Amos Shal Tefillah. If you daven in a place, so even within 4 amos where you daven, you're allowed to urinate on the floor. Amar Rav Yosef my Kamash Balan. I don't think we're talking about a shul. You're not going to urinate on the floor of the shul. We're talking about people who prayed outside. Amar Rav Yosef my Kamash Balan. What's the chedesh? Tanina Rav Yehuda Omer Mochras Omer Shom Chatzar L'Keach Mashi Yersti Yasa. We have a proof from our Mishnah. Rav Yehuda says you can sell a shul for a chatzar, and what he could do whatever he wants from it, even use it as a bathroom. I feel Rabbanon lo karmi al beis hakneses to kviyah kedushasei. And the Rabbanon only say, talking about a shul, they say you can't sell a shul without explicitly telling people, the person telling you what he's going to use it for. About dalan amos lo kviyah kedushasei shayu dalan amos where you daven, there's no kedusha there. Lo tani lo. There's no problem with that. Tani talking about the Rav Nachman was palam marchik dalan amos and mashte. Someone who's davening should distance himself 4 amos and then urinate. Amashtin, someone just urinated, marchik dalan amos in his pal, and then he wants to daven, he should walk 4 amos and then daven. Amalei bishlo amashtin marchik dalan amos in his pal. That makes sense. If he urinated, he should distance himself 4 amos and daven. Tanina. We'll learn a brisa. Kama yarchik mehenu mehenat sawa. And the Gemara in Brachos says, how far do you have to distance yourself from urine and excrement and daven dalan amos? Elam espal marchik dalan amos v'mashtin. But someone with daven, he has to travel 4. He has to walk 4 amos and then go to the bathroom. Lamali, ihachi kadishtinu lekula shvila d'naharda. Right? People daven all over the place. They daven all the paths. People were davening. They didn't make minyan all the time. They were busy in their businesses, so they just went outside to the street and they davened. So everywhere, if they daven there, you can't daven anywhere because they're all places. Everyone daven in every space, every block. So the Gemara said the answer is Tani Yisha, not Yarchik Yisha, meaning you have to wait. So the Gemara is Bishlam Mashtin Yisha Hilach Dalad Amos. If you went to the bathroom, you urinated, you should wait 4 amos. The time it takes you to walk 4 amos, Bishum Yitzotos, because after you finish urinating, it's still dripping, and if it's dripping, so you're really technically gonna be urinating while you're going to the bathroom, unless you wait Dalad Amos. Someone who just davened, he should wait the time it takes to walk Dalad Amos. Lamali, Amar Ravashi, you should call Dalad Amos Tfilasu Sedura B'Fiv. 4 amos after you finish davening, your davening is still in your mouth. Even though unconsciously your lips are mumbling. They're mumbling. You're davening. People mumble. They're davening. There's a riot. You should mumble your davening. Even if you're saying it with utmost kavana, no, it's really a proof that people said brachos really quickly. You know, people say you have to say Baruch, Atah, Shem. No, you see here from the Gemara that people mumble their tefillas, and they mumbled for the time it took to walk Dalad Amos. It has to be the pshat of it. Shala Talmidav Es Zakai. They asked the Talmidav asked Zakai Merach the Yamim. with what did you lengthen your days? I guess he was an old man. He lived a long time. Even though technically it's mutter, he took upon himself not to urinate in the place within Dalit Amos of where he davened. Look, I never give a nickname to my friend. I never, even when it was honest, I didn't have the money. I made sure to somehow get up the money to make kiddush. Ima's kena haisali. I had an old mother. Pamachas machra kipa shabrosha. She realized I was so makbid, and we saw we didn't have kiddush one Shabbos. She sold her kippah. She wore a kippah. I'm joking. She wore, don't say kippah. She wore, the article is a veil. Vevili kiddush hayom. She brought me. She used the money to buy kiddush. Tanak shemesa. Right, so when she died, Hinichalo, Gilon Meil's Garba Yayin, she obviously became very wealthy. She left him 300 barrels of wine. Shemei Su, when he died, Huiniach Labano Shloshalaf and Garba Yayin, I guess the stock went up. He left 3,000 barrels of wine. Ravuna Hava Asir Risa, B'Kali Kame de Rav. Ravuna was wearing a gartel made out of grass, and he was telling him her Rav. Amalei Mai Hai. He said, why are you wearing a gartel made out of grass? Amalei Lo Havali Kedusha Mashkanti Lem Mayanai. I didn't have any money for kiddush. Therefore, I gave a collateral. I borrowed money, and I gave the collateral my my belt. Let's say gartel, it's his belt. I was able to purchase kiddush. Amrali Rava, because of this noble act, the Tatum B'Shirah, you should be blessed. You should be covered in silk. Ki'ichlo Rabba, Breda Rav Huna, when Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, got married, Inish Gutzahav, Arhuna was a very short man. Gana Apuria, he was sleeping on the bed, I guess before the wedding. He went to sleep. Asyan Banta Vikalte, his daughters and daughter-in-laws, came. Shalcha Mashadya Manayu Ale. They threw their coats, their silk coats, on him. Adaito Mishirai, until he was covered in silk. Obviously, he became very wealthy. He could purchase for his whole family silk. Shamo Rav Ikbir. Rav heard this incident. He was angry. Amar. My time in La'artli, Kivirafte, V'chein Lamar, you should, Rav Huna should have said to me, just like I'm blessing you, that you should be wealthy with silk, should be covered with silk. You should have said V'chein Lamar, so to you, so therefore I would have got a blessing also, and I also would have a lot of silk. Shalom to me, Shamua. Talmidim asked Shamua, Merach Yomim, how did you live a long life? I'm going to be Yamai La Sisi, Compendria, Besak Nazas. I never took a shortcut through a shul, Basatya, Rosh Yam Kadosh. I never stepped on the heads of Talmidim, meaning they sat on chairs and he sat on a chair. He didn't sit on the floor. Lanasati Kappa, or it means that they sat in chairs and he didn't use a lectern. Lanasati Kappa below Bracha. I never did Nasias Kappaim. It was a Kohen. I never did a Dochin without a Bracha. He made sure to say a Bracha. I guess people forget saying a Bracha sometimes. Hard to imagine, right? Anyway, have a good week. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.